Back before revolution was a product or a trademark, a social revolution drew its poetry from the future, not the past.
Can you parody something you're a part of?
Monopolistic tendencies.
I questioned authority, and the question won.
You better just stop right there. No, I don't know.
Communism, and right wing would be democracy.
NDP is left wing to me.
I think it's more or less a liberal attitude, isn't it?
Incredibly liberal.
Or is it like if you're a Democrat?
Left wing is a conventional way of thinking.
Passive. Average.
Would be considered revolutionary.
It's very radical. More extreme, I would think.
I have no clue.
Left wing is struggling.
I think left wing is big changes.
Pro-union, generally.
Collectivist.
Humanist.
Quite socialistic.
Others thinking of others rather than thinking of themselves.
Social values.
More open to new ideas.
Favorable for the people, I guess.
Taking a stand on social justice issues.
Oriented towards more government intervention in business.
Or maybe don't very like private property.
Power to control other people or nations.
It's very bad for life, for human rights.
Should mean nothing.
Not me.
I'm not too sure.
I don't know, position in hockey.
I'm not political. I wouldn't know.
Popular with people who don't like right-wing politics.
This system try to be a little bit left.
They both have to follow the same rituals of following the economy. And the economy is in the hand of certain people.
So I don't think there's a large degree of ignorance. I just think there's a lack of context to actually speak about these things. And that the right and the extreme Stalinist distortions of the left have sort of robbed us of the vocabulary with which to speak about it properly.
Let us now return to Marx.
We don't have in this country a left-wing newspaper. We don't have a left-wing television station or a left-wing radio station.
When one's minimums are not being met.
Effective PR campaign by the part of conservative institutions and to convince people that the left really isn't a feasible alternative, that in today's global market for global competitiveness and all these buzzwords.
Monopolistic tendencies.
Binary right-left isn't accurate any longer for determining opposition.
It ain't just a case of class or consciousness.
You can't restrict who you're working with by who follows exactly the same leftist ideology.
I'm 162 years younger than the term ideology.
Being on the left means a commitment to a relatively deep and substantive understanding of democracy.
The revolution will be carbonated.
What is important, however, is not to be a Monday morning quarterback to the world's anti-systemic movements. It is from here that my small yet stylish life emanates. Is the middle class a race? Is management a culture? The flow of thought is not accompanied by a simultaneous unfolding of speech. Through what do I decipher myself? Let us now return to angles. Confrontation, informative. Can you say the same about your phone bill? A liberal reaction of the embarrassed subjectivity. What's left? It's not that the content is mine, but that it has been made generic.
You could learn a lot from their body language. Are you your own source material? The Human Conditioner. Creatively satisfying and non-greasy.
The media is what determines public opinion and dictates an awful lot of policy.
We seem to be being influenced so much by things that we're not really questioning whether they're good or bad.
I don't think people here in Canada are well informed.
Yeah, I just follow it once in a while, whatever I catch on TV.
In North America, it's important not to confuse consumers.
Our media is corporate Canada, and we placed our access to information in 4 or 5 large corporations who, control our access to our own lives and our own thoughts.
This landscape demands another attention span that mediates me flatly and broadly.
Bombarded by a corporate culture that has asked us to focus not on change, but on consumption.
Meltdown sentimentality for new technological changes in long-distance rates.
Who has the power to produce and effectively disseminate propaganda?
This applies to everything you purchase. Technicians of the abbreviated.
Think about what an essential requirement of democracy is. We come almost immediately to informed public debate.
How are we going to see those who we have not yet seen? By asking them to appear differently. I'll quietly wait for my big break. I'm smoking dynamite, listening to TNT, and reading GQ like never before. I'm ready as any man will be.
Uh-oh, autobio. What's left? I consider myself too young to be reamed in that way.
They've got millions of investors.
Rich getting richer, poor getting poorer, and does that undermine that social contract?
Incredible resources everywhere around the world.
You look at a Royal Bank that's standing right there that makes $1 billion in profit, and yet there's people living in cardboard boxes down the street. I think that, to me, is what I would change.
A better redistribution of wealth.
Reduce the role of state in society.
I would probably get rid of the liberalism. Like I say, just, less. I think people ought to be more accountable for what they do.
But make it so whoever works the hardest gets what they get, and if you sit on the street picking your nose, you don't get anything.
Give the business people more freedom.
Find a way to improve our budget without having all these medical cuts and educational cuts in our system.
Now there's such a daunting feeling that many of us have about this helplessness we have to economic forces.
You are value waiting to happen.
I'm willing to predict that there will be a recession. How severe it will be and how long it will last, no one knows, and anybody who gives you a prediction on that is purely pretentious.
$30,000 of untaxed corporate profits a minute in Canada. Don't forget to personalize the national debt.
There's been a huge shift in Canada over the last 50 years. Of who bears the tax burden. I mean, corporations used to carry about 50% of the tax burden in the private sector, the other half, and now corporations carry, some minuscule portion. I think it's less than 10%.
Will you be my John Kenneth Galbraith? Money traders and ordinary people.
Now, what governments say is that they have to make these cuts because of the imperatives of globalization. That if they don't lower corporate taxes, then they will lose corporate investment.
By this I mean, I'll take the bigger one and put it on my card.
Is the capital that we ourselves control, specifically trade unions through their pension funds, or many of us through our retirement registered savings plans. We have a large stake, in fact, in the corporations that make the policies that we live under.
Corporate core without a body. Let us now return to Hegel.
I'm beginning to believe that the politics of consumption, what we buy, will have a greater impact on changing the power structure.
I become a world citizen with the arrival of my phone card. It's not often I lament a product. But what's left? The unimaginable conversation outside of commerce.
The merger will create a company worth $14 billion.
Unchecked capitalism can cause immeasurable pain.
for the people that we vote into power to actually remember we put them there.
Tell us what you're going to do and then do it, I think is the message I'd like to see from any politician.
Take the government apart and put it all back together.
No matter who you vote for, doesn't matter, you're not going to get what you want anyway.
Because they were always liars to us.
I hate politicians in general, but I'm not suggesting anarchy either, so.
They try living on the other side and, you know, try being a homeless bum for a week.
They are having just very short-term vision.
If the politicians concerned themselves with the population instead of themselves, it would be a better place to live in.
Actually let democracy work the way it's supposed to work.
The idea is that government doesn't work anymore. Government is inefficient. Government is creating all the problems that we're facing right now.
You don't need me to tell you this. False center of accusation with moral funding.
So I think that the cultivation of this distrust of government is very functional to an agenda that has the ultimate reduction of government involvement in the economic and social sphere, the re-regulation of our lives with an aim towards helping the corporation rather than reining the corporation in.
Imagine yourself a geopolitical power. Imagine me at your side.
I think the majority of people are opposed to the corporate agenda when they see it laid bare for what it is. And I think that when you look at what happened at APEC, you can just see the response of the government to that. They don't want questioning of these policies. They don't want a free and open debate on these issues.
And thank God for a few students who bring it to our attention. But they face pepper spraying, strip searching, and jail without charges when the broadcasters are talking about what a great thing this will be for business.
The problem of getting workers to work harder for lower pay is inherently difficult.
What we're seeing in the last 20 years is a shift, and a not too subtle shift, towards a society where governments may no longer be dominant, where the dominant institution is the large corporation.
Thus, history replies, who will do the dirty work? What's left? You're looking at one Canadian. She's got pressures.
Shake. Che Guevara.
Back before revolution was a product or a trademark, a social revolution drew its poetry from the future, not the past.
Thus, the revolution has to come from the people, not from the politicians.
I hope there's someone walking past us right now who's a revolutionary, who's raising a little shit in their company.
My parents went to the revolution and all I got was a pair of Birkenstocks.
The opposition to unjust systems has become effective exactly when it seems the least likely. What we're seeing now is both the triumph of capitalism, but also the peeling away of all of the safeguards that have been in place that have protected people from the harsher side of capitalism. It's exactly at that point that people start to say, hey, wait a minute, look what's going on. They're taking over the water supply system. They're taking over my children's education. Their primary concern is to serve their shareholders, not to serve me.
Are you your own source material? The Human Conditioner. Creatively satisfying and non-greasy.
The problem has not been me, but my inability to admit that I am the problem.
However, I am practicing walking the walk.
The day, indecisive, disperses.
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 So, in order to vote, you have to ask yourself, are you any better off since you began watching this film? Or has your economic situation remained the same?
We need to bring new cultures and other communities together. Indigenous people, elderly, children, they all have a lot to teach the old left and start to create communities of resistance.
There's a degree to which the corporate agenda threatens what Canadians feel to be essential elements of what it means to be Canadian.
I mean, opposing globalization is something that calls into question everything about the capitalist system, the property relations, the systems of governance, the relations of corporations.
There's what you can actually get done and what you have a chance of using to mobilize people.
We must maintain access to our own airwaves because there's lots of left out